Welcome everyone. This is Jean Boysdart, and I'm just absolutely delighted to have with me Louise Pistole, and she has written this beautiful book, Discover Your Joy, and she's one of our courageous creative conquerors, and she's going to talk a little bit about what that means and her life journey that led her to this point today. Welcome, Louise.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to talk with you.
I'm just so happy to have you here. You just really emanate joy, and that's something that's just so important to me and important to a lot of people that are here today. And before we got started, you shared with me that you're kind of struggling with a little bit of a condition there that's been going on for 5 months. And I wanted to ask you, how do you live in joy when you have a chronic condition, chronic health condition? And doctors aren't able to figure it out. How do you do that? Because I think you are an expert at that and you have some wisdom for those of us who are going through the same thing.
Yes, right now, and you'll notice as we go along, I have um, something that came on board about 5 months ago that has had me actually coughing a lot and clearing my throat a lot. And I have seen numerous doctors and had a lot of tests made and one thing and another. And we really haven't come up with an answer for that. But the other part of that story is I have had for, oh my gosh, 20 some years back issues, and I've had back surgeries, and that is another ongoing thing that seems to kind of come and go. And what I have found through all of this is we have to look for moments of joy in our day. You know, the smallest thing, whatever it may be, that you can hold on to. And for me, my husband is really good about encouraging me and just doing nice things for me, checking on me. Do you need anything? And in a lot of ways, he keeps me going. But there were many years, and we'll talk about that. There were many years that I was by myself. And when you don't have someone to keep you going, we have to look for inspiration. Is it in the sunrise? When you look out the window, what do you see that inspires you? What is a book that you can read a little bit of that will inspire you? Somewhere we have to find a moment every day that we can hold on to and that we can think back to it, not just live that moment for that moment. But then when the pain sets in or the frustration or anxiety, that we can look back and go, oh, this was a good day. It was a beautiful sunrise. I enjoyed seeing that. And remind yourself of that moment when you need it the most.
I love that. Remind yourself of that moment of joy. It doesn't have to be right here. It's here in your heart. It's here in your memories. It's with you. Remind yourself. I also like that you mentioned your husband and mentioned nature. I just recently interviewed Sally Betters, another author, and she mentioned that healing really takes place when we have a sense of community, and that community can be with nature. Even if you're living alone, you mentioned living alone from a certain part of your life, and and then you mentioned your husband and his support, and I'm sure that community, that support is so important with healing and joy, whatever it is, with nature, whatever it is.
Yes, it is. And actually, I wrote a fair amount about that in my book, that talking about taking nature walks and being aware of your surroundings. Unfortunately, a lot of times people will maybe walk outside, but they're either on their phone or they're deep in concentration about something else. But if you can kind of put all that aside and pay attention to the birds and the bees and the trees and the grass and the squirrels that are playing, and the flowers, whatever it is. There may be some type of water, a pond, or a stream or something, but pay attention to what is out there in nature, and try to take in the smells of nature. I mean, right now I have a gardenia blooming, and it smells so nice when I go by there. And listen for the water. So use all your senses when you're in nature, as opposed to being distracted and just being there.
Would you say that creativity, that the imagination plays an important role in that? You're describing all of these nature. What if someone doesn't live around that? Can they still have that with the use of the imagination? And how do they do that?
I think you can. And of course, today, with all the resources available to us online, there's lots of ways to see some of this, to even hear it. So I think online, and even reading about it, if you're reading something where someone has described it well, you may be able to imagine that.
Yes, very good.
3 years ago, when I did marry my husband, um, we went to Hawaii for our honeymoon, and I thought it was probably the most beautiful place I had ever seen. And I loved all the waterfalls. I came back with a gazillion pictures of waterfalls, but I still go back to those days and those pictures, and that takes me back to a real nature trip, so to speak. So even if you have something in your past like that you can draw on, it will help to fill your heart with joy.
Thank you so much. And can you tell us what makes you a courageous creative conqueror? You mentioned your chronic back pain. Were there other things growing up as a child and coming into your adulthood that you battled and used creativity to overcome obstacles in your path?
Well, I actually had, for the time that I grew up in, I did have a happy childhood, and I grew up in a strong Christian family. I did marry very young, and that lasted some years, and I did have one son from that marriage, but it did end in divorce. And I found myself alone, and I was alone for many, many years. And that was really when I struggled the most, is
Mhm.
I had never really lived alone. I had never been alone in my life. And, all the worry, the doubt, can you make it financially? My life was full of despair there for a good many years. I was self-employed, and I was working incredibly long hours in a very stressful business. And and life can get you down. It surely can. But what I had started early on was writing and journaling. And so for all those years, I was writing down every day. I would sit and write at night. And it was the good, the bad, and the ugly. There were days that it was my gratitude list, just that I had made it through the day, so to speak. So it's a lot of gratitude in my journals. A lot of the pages were written almost as prayers that to see me through this, you know, my faith kept me going there. And then kind of halfway through those years that I was alone, one Sunday morning, my minister talked about watch out for joy stealers. And that message resonated with my heart. And I began to read more about joy, read more in the Bible about joy, but read other books about joy. And I was just reading and studying and writing all this time. I would read things and then I would kind of write down my own version of it in my journals. So I had been studying joy and reading and writing about joy for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I remarried and my husband was already retired, you know, I closed my business and retired myself, and it gave me the opportunity to take all those journals that I had been writing all those years and put them together and compile them into my book.
Oh, that's beautiful. So you never really initially intended on writing a book. You were doing this inspired by the words of your minister. You were doing this for your own survival, for your own emotional balance, going through this time of great struggle for you, being all alone. You were doing it just for your own health, emotional health. And then out of that now came this beautiful book, Discover Your Joy. And we will read a little bit from it, I hope. Um, and that's just such an incredible gift. And also, you are an inspiration to so many people out there that are writers. They're probably very talented writers, but they never really got it done. They kind of, as you mentioned, kept writing, tucking it away, have lots of journals, this kind of thing.
Right.
You got it done. So I want to ask you a question, an important question. What advice do you have for others just like you, maybe even women who had to fight their way after a husband died or left them, divorced, and they've got these writings or they've got some creative projects? What is your advice for them to take that step and get it out there? What motivated you to get it out there rather than just keep it to yourself? And what advice do you have to give others?
Well, first of all, I had probably wanted to write something for many, many, many years. In fact, it was 40 years ago when a girlfriend said to me, "You should write a book." And so that kind of stuck with me all these years. So it was like it was a dream, but it wasn't a plan that I had in action. It wasn't a goal on a piece of paper. It was just kind of something that floated out there. So after all these years, and I had all this um, information, I'll say, through my journals, and the first half of my journals were all the years that I lived in despair and worried and, you know, was concerned about everything in life. And then, you know, one Sunday morning, my life took a turn for the better. And so the last half of all my writing was about joy. So you can see the change. You can actually go through the journals and see the change in what I was writing.
Mhm.
And I think all of that gave me the inspiration I needed because I saw the change in myself. And if I could make that change myself, I knew others could too. But back to your original question here about others taking their story and writing it. you know, probably the most important thing that needs to be said is that someone else is going to gain from you telling your story. There's someone else that needs to hear that story. They're living the same life or a similar life, or you know, it's something they can relate to some way. And if someone can relate to your story and it can change lives, then you know, my goal would be to say, hey, spread the word, tell your story. And today there's lots of ways to tell our story. You know, the book is, I'll say, a concrete example, but ebooks and mini books and blogs, and there's lots of ways to tell our story today. And I would just encourage anyone that has a story to share it. Even if you feel like you're the only one that lived that life, and I'm telling you, you're probably not the only one that lived that life. I mean, you know, there's someone that is going to be inspired and encouraged by the words that you would share.
Yes, and particularly all of us, all over the world, went through this pandemic last year,
Yes.
this year, and that was an incredible amount of change and anxiety and stress, physical, mental, emotional, and certainly your book, the timing of it was very good, that it was coming out during a time when people were looking for joy because they felt so much despair. And what a joy it was to have your book come out. I would like to ask you to, could you read maybe one of the days from your book? You said it's the
Yes. I'm going to turn right here and get my book where I have a page marked that I would like to read. Um, the one thing I will say is that the book is arranged by topics, and every month has a topic. There is a month that is all about nature. There's a month about hope and encouragement. My favorite month is July because it is joy and happiness.
oh, wonderful.
Yes. So the one I want to read you today, the title is Joy Comes from Deep Within. I am a light to all I meet. Can you feel joy deep within yourself? I can vividly remember the day my minister spoke about always being joyful. Why did this particular message sink so deep within my heart? Now I know it was my time. I needed joy, and Pastor Mike delivered it. Over the next 10 years, I learned how to seek and embrace joy. It's not something you can see or hold in your hands. Instead, joy is a feeling that you have possibly spent years building and nourishing. It comes from a light deep within your soul. It's not superficial or fleeting. Once joy has well established roots in your heart and soul, it becomes easier to choose joy every day. You have made it a habit, and now you have a deep well of joy to draw on. Sharing your joy with others will not diminish the shine of your light. So many people you meet today barely have a concept of true happiness. They certainly cannot grasp the fact that you are a joyful person with a joyful heart. You can be the light for others who have not yet found joy. What can you do today to share your joy with someone who needs encouragement?
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I love that you have questions and suggestions for contemplation after your little story to encourage others to dig deeper and find that joy and share with others their joy. I particularly like what you said about you don't lose your light if you share it, something like that. I think that's
Yes, that is true. That is so true. And yeah, the questions in there are questions every day to help you stop and think about the world around you. the good things going on around you and to become aware of it. And I do think, in the day and time we live today, we're all so busy, and we have to stop and consciously pay attention to the good things in life, or they just pass us by. I did have one um, lady that wrote to me, and she said, I have such a blessed life, and it's a shame. I need a reminder to choose joy every day. But she found in her short reading every day in my book that she was able to bring that joy to the forefront of her life for that day. And though, even though we've talked about people with all these issues, and how to get joy in their lives, even those who are blessed and their lives are good, they still need that reminder every day to consciously choose joy.
This is really touching my heart. I'm a very passionate person. I think one of the things that I love about what you did is that it seems like you're giving people permission to love themselves and do what makes them happy and experience joy. And I think a lot of times people who have led a life of trauma or pain, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, whatever it is, they get into the habit of not doing what makes them happy. And they've kind of forgotten what makes them happy. And so your book is reminding them to just take the time to tune in and listen and discover where the joy was. You try to find some memories, what makes you happy, experience that. And I love that you're giving people permission to be joyful.
Well, thank you. And thank you for saying it that way. I will give you one other short example is I am all about my yard and being in my yard a lot. And I do write about nature a lot. But I have been working in my yard and had gotten a hold of a poisonous plant that I did not know was poisonous. And obviously, you're in the yard, you get hot, you wipe your face, and I got this poison in my eyes.
Oh my goodness.
And the pain was excruciating. And I realized I was quickly losing my vision. And I had come in, my nephew was with me that day, helping me in the yard, and we came in the house. And I sat down and I fixated my limited vision on a picture of my grandchildren. And I thought, if I'm going to lose my vision, this is what I want engraved on my brain to be able to remember. Now, I don't wish, and obviously, I saw the doctor, my corneas were burned, but it all healed up and no lasting results, I'm happy to report. But, my point of that is I wish no one to have a situation like that. But even without a dire emergency, if you can find that one thing that brings you joy, and for me that day, it was a picture of the grandchildren.
Yes.
And just engrave that upon your brain. And whenever you need a little dose of joy, that you have that ready to call on, you can immediately remember, the joy, in my case, that the grandchildren bring to my life. And whatever it is that brings joy to your life, just have that ready to call on when you need that little perk of joy.
Oh, that's such a great story. I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Few minutes left. I want to hold up your beautiful book here. It's in the back
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
here. It's a lot. It's a lot. 365, enough for every day of the year, divided up into these beautiful, focused daily stories and contemplations. And we're going to go to your website here, and I'd love for you to share and tell us a little bit how they can get in touch with you and what's happening here. Okay, so you can see the website here. This is at Louise Pistole. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yeah, Pistole. The E is silent. It's Louise Pistole, exactly.
.com.
And that is my website there. That is the home page. And you can see the menu kind of across the top. There's a page that's just inspirational quotes. There is a blog, and there's about 50 articles on the blog right now. The one thing that will be going up there this coming week is when you sign up for my newsletter, there is an 85-page journal called Journal to Joy. And it starts off with asking you questions about your dreams, your desires, but also your fears and worries, and how to get all that out and get it down on paper, what you want all that to be. So it walks you through all that if you choose to do that. And otherwise, you can skip straight to the daily journal.
What is that? Book a call.
I am doing coaching on joy and gratitude and abundance for anyone that needs or wants to talk deeper about, what is going on in their life, and how to gain that joy, how to seek that joy, and to make it part of their life.
Oh, that's so important. That's wonderful. So they can just click there and schedule time with you.
Yes.
And here's your book. They can actually buy it here on your website. And can they get an autographed book if they want? How do they do that?
Yes. There is right there where it says buy the book. If you click that, it gives you both the link to buy it on Amazon or the link to buy it directly from me. But another thing that I have done is people that have bought it on Amazon and wanted an autograph, I do have a sticky note, I'll say, that I can autograph for them and send it to them along with a matching bookmark. So if they have bought it on Amazon, we can still get them an autograph.
Oh, that's very nice. And then down here, let's see. Oh, this is your learn more about your blog, coaching and speaking. And here, join the newsletter here. And you have, like you said, more than 50 articles that you've written all about joy. So this is free. You can just come here and read these wonderful articles. Check out the blog and quotes. Where it says inspirational quotes. So when they click on this, will they see quotes that from you?
It will take them to various quotes. It will be a whole page of quotes with images. And now that my book has been released, I will put more quotes out there that come from the book.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. And this is a little bit about you and how they can contact you right here on your website.
Yes.
To send you a message. That's great. Okay. Let's see. Oh, and here's the newsletter again. All right. Well, thank you so much, Louise. This has been, I really got a lot out of it. I'm sure that others got a lot out of it, particularly people that are ready to take that next step, or perhaps they're going through struggles, emotional, physical, mental challenges, and who isn't during this time? And
Yes.
have a little joy. You have something for them in this book. And so thank you so much for your time. It's been joyful having you here. And
Thank you, Jean. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you today about my favorite topic, joy.
I enjoyed it very
Very good then.
much. Thank you. And bye bye.
Okay. Bye now.
See you next time.